Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. This is John McDougall. I am the event coordinator here at Murder by the Book in Houston. And before we get started with tonight's event, I'll make just a couple of quick announcements while everybody gets the notification that we're live and comes and finds us from the various corners of the internet. Let you know what is going on with us. So if you're ordering from us online, we have passed the media mail deadline. So if you're ordering gifts and you need them before Christmas, you have just another couple of days to use priority shipping for them to get to you. If you choose media mail, it will not get there. We do have when you choose media mail on the website, it will say will not arrive by Christmas. So just make sure you pay attention to that. Like I said, we have just another couple of days for priority to get where it needs to go. Of course, we always have gift cards. We're running our gift card promo. If you buy a $25 gift card, we give you an extra $5. If you buy a $50 gift card, we make it $16. If you buy 100, we make it $120. And we can email those if you don't want to worry about making sure they make it through the mail. Also wanted to mention we are open on Sundays again. We're super excited about that. Through most of the last 2 years, we've been closed on Sundays just because it made it easier staffing-wise throughout the pandemic. So we are now open on Sundays from 12 to 5. We will be closed the Sunday after Christmas. So that's the only one that we're not going to be open. But so definitely come visit us on Sundays. Brenda and Sally will be there and they will be more than happy to help you out. We have, after tonight, one more official Murder by the Book event for the year. Sarah DeBello, who does Mystery and Thriller Mavens, has a couple more next Monday. But tomorrow night is going to be it for us. We've partnered with the Crime Writers of Color, and we've been doing an every other month reading series. So Alex Segura and Kelly Garrett will be finishing us up next year with a look back tomorrow with a look back at 2021. They'll be joined by Sujata Massey, Mia Manansala, Robert Justice, Katie Richards, Paige Sleuth, and Kate Holohan. So make sure you check that out tomorrow evening. And then, so that does it for us virtually for this year. We're super excited. We will be starting up with some in-store events next year. We're going to kick it off with James Rollins on January 5th. So we hope that you guys will come check us out for the in-store stuff. As we've been saying, everybody's been so great about supporting us virtually. Once we're actually able to do the in-store stuff, it's going to be super important that we get people to buy books and show up for the events, because publishers are going to be looking at the in-store stuff really closely to make sure that it's still worth it to send people out on the road. And we want them to know that it is. So definitely please come visit or order books for the in-store stuff. I've dropped a link in the comments, so if you do want to order copies of Megyn or Matt's books this evening, the link is right there. You'll be able to order those. I'm going to get them brought out. I'm going to start with Matt. How are you tonight, Matt?
Good, John. Thanks for having me. Great to be here, as always, even remotely. 2 years in a row remotely.
Yeah, hopefully next time you've got something out, we'll actually be able to get you in store and get to see you without a computer screen between us.
That'd be great.
So Matt's newest release is Last Redemption, which is the newest book in the Rick Cahill series. It's book number 8. Officially, Matt Coyle is the best-selling author of the Rick Cahill PI crime series. His novels have won the Anthony Award, the Shamus Award, the Lefty Award, the San Diego Book Award, among others, and has been nominated for numerous Anthony, Macavity, Shamus, and Lefty Awards. As I mentioned, Last Redemption is the 8th in the award-winning series. Matt is a graduate of UC Santa Barbara and lives in San Diego with his yellow lab, Angus. Next up, we're also thrilled to have Maegan Beaumont with us this evening. How are you tonight, Maegan?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for joining us. So Megan's most recent release is The Darkwater Girls. And Maegan Beaumont is the award-winning author of the Sabrina Vaughn thriller series. Her debut novel, Carved in Darkness, was awarded the 2014 Gold Medal from Independent Publishers for Outstanding Thriller, as well as named a Foreword Book of the Year finalist and a Debut Novel of the Year by Suspense Magazine. When she isn't locked in her office torturing her protagonist, she's busy chasing chickens and kids, hanging laundry, and burning dinner. Either way, she's almost always in the company of her 6 dogs, her truest and most faithful companions, and her almost as faithful husband, Joe. Megyn also writes steamy contemporary romance as USA Today best-selling author Megyn Ward. As I mentioned, if you're interested in either of their books, I just dropped a link in the comments. You'll be able to order them there. And while Matt and Megyn are chatting this evening, if you have questions for either of them, please post those in the comments on Facebook or the live chat on YouTube, and we will get to those in a bit. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to Matt and Megyn, and I will see you guys in just a little bit.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
And please send questions because mine aren't very good. Hey, you send me, we exchange books.
Uh-huh.
You sent me this one, and when I see the one behind you, the cover behind you, and I saw that on that will, which will not be named website.
Yes.
So what's the deal? This isn't an arc, I don't think.
No. I actually have that one as well.
Okay. Well.
We just decided that we didn't like that cover, so we changed it. That's the beauty of being with a small boutique press, is when something's not working, you can just switch it up.
It's also the beauty of being you, who has a lot of cover design, huge cover design background, but we can get into that later. So regarding the Blackwater Girls, Megan and I go back a ways. We're both rookies. I think we met when I don't remember what conference it was. I think it was the Left Coast. And
I think we met at our signings, at our debut signings at the Poison Pen.
Yes, we did. But we didn't meet at Monterey Left Coast Crime first.
Nope.
No, about that. You're younger than me, so maybe you're right. But that, we were both rookies. Absolutely. That was both our first book, or my first book. I think it was your first book too.
It was my first book too.
Yeah, and that series was fantastic. I was a little put off because I thought I was the good rookie writer, and then I read your book and I thought, well, shit, she can really write. But I know you've written a lot of different things in between. We'll talk about later, maybe. But so Georgia felt what I told you earlier is that I mean, all the writing you do, it's all on the page. I mean, it's all the quality is there. It's a really well written book. And it shows that, using the brain, using the muscle really makes a difference, and makes me maybe think maybe I should write a little more than I do. But why this series now? Why getting back into this? We'll call it straight mysteries from romantic suspense.
I honestly didn't think that I would ever go back to writing thrillers or mysteries. I've been very successful as a romance author. I loved writing the Sabrina series. It was my debut series. It was a labor of love for me. I know all the stabbing and killing that I did in those books probably sounds weird, but I really
not to those
had
who know
a deep
you.
connection to Sabrina.
Yeah.
As a character. So to move away from that and start writing romance, that was something that started as a decision based on the fact that I wanted to continue to write, but I didn't want to write thrillers or mystery because I didn't want to write anything that would inform on my past writing. So I wanted to start fresh. I write under a pen name. Not a very good pen name. It's an open secret. Everybody knows who I am. So, but I started doing that just as a way to be able to keep writing. But also, and I'm going to be completely honest about this, because romance makes up 70% of the readership out there. 70% of all readers read romance, and it's a big market, and they've always been open and inclusive to new writers. And I felt like I could have more success and traction through romance as opposed to writing mystery or thriller. As it turns out, it's something that I've really enjoyed, and I love writing romance, and I love my romance audience, and it's something that I've found that I'm good at. So I never really thought that I was going to go back to thrillers. I never really had a plan to do that. Maybe someday, but I was pretty focused on romance. And then Book Auteur emailed me at the end of 2019 and said, "Hey, do you want to develop a series with us?" And Book Auteur happened to be on a very short list of publishers that I would have always said yes to. And so I did. And that's it.
So you took a pay cut to come back to mystery suspense.
Mm-hmm.
I take a pay cut.
I did.
I take a pay cut every time I sign a contract. No, I don't take a pay cut when I sign a contract, but certainly not getting wealthy. All right, your turn.
Okay, my turn. So reading the Rick Cahill series. This is book 8, I believe. We're on
Right.
book 8. Last Redemption is book 8.
Yeah.
And we've followed Rick along, and he started, I believe, in his mid 30s. Now he's in his early 40s.
Yeah.
And we've watched him progress. And I know that you've said earlier in earlier interviews that you always wanted there to be real consequences for the physicality of Rick's job.
Yeah.
The PI work, everything that he goes through physically, you wanted there to be consequences for that. So was diagnosing Rick with a CTE, was that always your plan, or?
No. And one thing we didn't do is we didn't really give a synopsis of our book. So I will jump in, and then you can jump in. That's a very big cup. Yeah. So Rick is a private investigator. He's this is the 8th book. He makes the mistake of getting emotionally and physically involved in every case that you read about, at least. So and yeah, as you mentioned, one of the rules I had when I first started writing them many years ago was everything mattered. So he gets injured physically. That's good. He doesn't go away the next chapter, and maybe not even the next book, depending on what happened to him. And the emotional scars, people have been reading all along have seen them in every book. The carry over the emotional scars. But CTE is chronic traumatic encephalopathy. It's a brain disease. Comes from a lot of brain trauma, and it's called CTE for those football fans who are quite aware of it by now. I'm sure it's called the NFL. It's called the pro football disease. And Rick has lived a violent life. When he was a kid, early in life, like for many of us, that violence is turned towards sports or funneled through sports. He boxed Golden Gloves for 3 or 4 years when he was a teen. He played Pop Warner football, high school football, and college football for a couple of years. He's had a handful of concussions as a private investigator. So I started thinking, all these things add up, and I kind of thought, how could he not be diagnosed with this disease if I was going to be true to that rule I had and true to real life? As unrealistic as the things that have happened to Rick are, these would all happen to one person. If they did, he'd have these consequences, I thought. So I didn't see any way of avoiding it. It was funny. I was talking to my publisher just today, and she again commented on my choice to give Rick this disease. It's a fairly successful series, and I've significantly shortened his lifespan. But no, I did not. Even with that rule I had, I did not plan for this at all. In fact, when I first started Rick, nobody even knew about CTE. But as it progressed and his life evolved, I thought there's kind of no way around it. Well, I mean, there's clearly a lot of ways around it, but not the way I was writing it. So I didn't plan it, but it makes complete sense to me. Maybe I'm the only one. Okay. All right, so tell us about Georgia Fell and the Darkwater Girls.
Okay, so quick synopsis of the book. Georgia Fell, the Darkwater Girls. It's the first in a new series. Georgia Fell is my protagonist. She was abandoned at birth in a hospital, so she doesn't know who her family is or where she comes from. She was raised in foster care on a fictional island in the UP of Michigan.
Upper Peninsula, for those who don't know. Upper Peninsula, for those who don't know.
Oh, yes, Upper Peninsula. So the island is fictional, and it's very much divided into the haves and have-nots. Because nobody knew where Georgia came from, and she was kind of a local celebrity. She straddled both of those lines as far as being able to drift in and out of both worlds, the haves and the have-nots. But she was raised in foster care. 18 turn of events happened. She ran away from home, left the island, joined the military, and spent the next 10 years as a military police, and actually ended up being a warrant officer for the U.S. Army, and was worked in their their sharp sexual assault division. And so she comes home after 10 years of service, and one of her foster sisters is found strangled to death. And that sets forth a series of events. She's trying to find who murdered her foster sister, and uncovers a whole bunch of bad going on the island. So
a whole bunch of bad. Georgia Fell is a great name, by the way.
Thank you.
So she is a strong, independent woman like Sabrina Vaughn from the earlier series. I mean, I guess this is sort of, as we said earlier, write what you know. But how are they similar? How are they not?
So similar. They're both protectors. They love their families. They're both hyper focused on protecting and serving and making sure that justice is done. I think where they kind of deviate from each other is Sabrina is much more, or was much more, contained. She was not as connected to the people that she loved. She was not as connected to the people that she was driven to protect. For those who have read the series, probably all two of you out there, she suffered a lot of trauma. I put her through a lot.
Yeah.
And
I had a kindred spirit to her.
Yeah. she went through a lot, and Georgia has gone through a lot too, but I think Georgia managed to maintain her connectivity to the world around her.
Yeah.
They're both smart asses. Again, write what you know, I guess. But, it's just that Georgia is much more connected to the world around her than Sabrina was.
Why did you choose military police?
I wanted Georgia to have a law enforcement background. Because I wanted her to, when she saw her foster sister murdered, I wanted her to feel this impotence. I wanted her to know what was happening, and I wanted her to know what had to be done or what should be done. But I wanted her to not be able to do those things. I wanted her to have all the knowledge, but none of the power.
Nice.
So that was something, and coming from a law enforcement background, coming home to the island and not being able to do anything that she knows how to do. That was important to me.
So she's got the tools, but not the authority.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yep.
Nice tension built in.
Yes. That's the plan. That's the plan.
All right, your turn. You got to ask me a question every once in a while.
All right. So, the beginning of the series, we find out Rick, in yesterday's Echo, he's a widower. His wife died not long after they were married, I don't believe.
Yeah.
If memory serves.
Right.
And he spent the last, several books in and out of relationships, mostly toxic, not good for him. And he finally meets Leah.
Yeah.
And she's one of the only good things in his life. Yeah. So as we open up on Last Redemption, we find out that they're having a baby.
Right.
Was that always the plan? Was it always your plan to give Rick a family, or was that just something that happened organically?
Yeah, once again, not a great planner. And the series has gone places I never imagined it would. My other rule, I mentioned the rule of everything mattered, everything has repercussions. The other rule was he wouldn't have a sidekick, and not in life and not in his business. No Superman sidekick to pull him out of physical peril. No wealthy sidekick to get him out of help get him out of law enforcement peril. and no comedic sidekick to lighten the mood a little bit.
Well, you messed up.
I did mess up, and thank God I did, because I don't think I'd be sitting here talking about my 8th book if I hadn't introduced Moira,
Right.
because who's his a part-time partner, another PI. She kind of came about by accident, and then the more she talked, the more I liked her, and then their relationship, which is a big sister, little brother relationship, really it lightened things what needed, because the books are fairly dark. Because they're very internal. It's first person. You're in Rick's head, and that can be a dark place to be. Just dark and not in just dark in the way he looks at his lot in life, perhaps, and the mistakes he makes. And with Moira, there's this push and pull brother sister relationship that's it's antagonistic but lighter. And also, Moira's got her stuff together quite a bit, except in this book where her son's gone missing, and she's quite upset. But if Moira's invested in Rick, then maybe the reader can understand or want to learn why he makes some of the bad decisions he does. So it was fell into Moira. Best thing that ever happened to the series, I think. Leah fell into her too. I wanted to write about Rick's first wife's death, and because that's before the backstory to yesterday's Echo. And you probably know David Putnam. Putnam was always telling me, when you gotta get that Colleen thing done, and I finally did in book 5. Took me a long time to get there. I said, well, I got to do it now, and I needed someone to get Rick involved in his former training officers hit and run death. And Leah is the sister of the training officer, and the training officer who Rick had an brief affair with when he was married. And so I needed her for like one scene and maybe a couple others, and put them together. And they're both they both had trauma in their lives. Hers very recent with the death of her sister. And plus they start to work together trying to find out the real truth about what happened to her sister. So they built this bond, with that kind of dire consequences, or it kind of fast forwards relationships, or at least it does in fiction. And so, God, it kind of made sense. They had this thing, and they actually made a good couple, and I carried her through. That was Lost Tomorrows. This is the 8th book. That was the 5th book, I think. Is that right? Something like that. Maybe it's the 6th book. It was the 6th book. So it just kind of made sense, and I allowed him to have sort of a normal life. He could progress a little bit instead of regressing, which he'd done quite a bit in some of the other books. And so I just thought, well, it's okay for him to have a little joy in his life. And then I thought, well, he's 42. He thought he'd never have a chance of having a kid. Why not give him that? And then, of course, I gave him CT right after. So
right.
You were talking about
you gave it all, and then you took it all.
Yeah, you were talking about unicorns early. He doesn't get any unicorns either.
No unicorns for Rick. I have found usually the best characters come up by accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. The best, most real, and the characters that catch you are the ones that you just met. They were throwaway characters, and they really weren't meant for anything else. And they have a way of sticking with you, and those are the good ones, I think.
That's funny, because that's exactly what Moira and Leah were. They
Mm-hmm.
they were necessary. Moira was going to be in one scene, a confrontational scene with another private investigator. She opened her mouth. Rick started listening. So did I. And she was going to be a forgettable character.
Mm-hmm.
And Leah was like, she had one job to do. She did it, and then she grew. So you've probably written a lot of characters. All right. Know how many, but you've written how many romantic, I call it romantic suspense, and I think that's what you're writing.
Actually, they're just contemporary romance. There are a few romantic suspense in there, but they're mostly just straight romance. I've written 18, I think.
Well, that's actually less than I expected, because you told me once you wrote 11 books in 1 year.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And that was 2018, and then 2019 was a slow year for me. I think I wrote 3 or 4.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you still have a child at home? One
I
child?
have 2, actually.
Oh.
I have a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old.
And 6 dogs.
Actually, no. I have 10 and a half dogs.
Oh my God.
Yeah. 10 and a half.
So you've got a werewolf.
Yes. She's right there.
Oh, I'm glad you said she, because I hope we weren't going to be talking about Joe.
No.
So I got a couple.
He's a Sasquatch.
I met him. That's not nice.
He calls himself Sasquatch.
He's a big guy.
He is.
So with Angel Bay, first of all, why did you choose a fictional locale?
So Sabrina was set in San Francisco, and that was easy to research. That was easy to map out. But I think I wanted something completely new. I wanted something that I could map out on my own, that I could make. I could make mine. I kind of modeled it after Mackinac Island a little bit, but I also threw in, some other aspects from other places. But I wanted a place that was completely new, something that I could make from scratch.
Are you from Michigan?
I'm not. I'm from Arizona, born and raised.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in the unincorporated part of Arizona, as far as I know. Extremely unincorporated.
Yes.
So, but you made in Angel Bay, you made this very delineated classes type town.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia seems to straddle it. I guess that's from her birth. She was kind of the miracle kid, so how important is that for her to have like her feet in both sides?
It's very important, I think, because nobody knows where she comes from. Nobody knows where she belongs. There's a very, very, very present line between the haves and the have-nots on the island. With nobody knows where she comes from, nobody knows where she belongs. She's able to come and go in both worlds. She's doesn't belong to anybody, so she belongs to everybody. So that's a part of her power, I think, that people are kind of in awe of her a little bit. There's a mystery about her that nobody really understands. So she's got this bubble around her that protects her to a certain degree from the backlash of being either or. Mm-hmm. So it's very important, and it'll play a more important role as the series continues.
Well, I'm guessing you probably have at least one of those books done. Do you have or maybe all? Do you have a set arc book amount?
I don't have a set arc. I have the next 2 to 3 books planned out. Book 2, we will delve into her backstory as the Angel Bay baby, and we will solve the mystery of where she comes from, and how her abandonment came about. In Darkwater Girls, I hint of past trauma that happened while she served in the military, and we'll see that come back in book 3 or 4.
Did you know what her backstory was when you first started writing her?
I knew she was abandoned at birth. I did not know. Didn't know everything, and that's the way my brain works. I don't know everything. Yeah. I don't know what I don't know, but my brain seems to know what's going on. Case in point, when I wrote the few opening scenes and the boat theft, in the opening scene as she's coming up over the bridge onto the island.
Mhm.
And one of her foster brothers, who is a sheriff's deputy, is telling her about a boat theft that happened off the island. Again, Julie was a throwaway character. She was not supposed to be anybody.
Mhm.
It was just, something that, was happening, a sidebar. And the fact that it became an integral part of the rest of the book was not planned at all. So.
That's the joy of we pantsers.
Yes.
Yeah. But
it's very exciting.
You are much more efficient at it than I am.
Well, I doubt that.
No, I know you. Just from talking to you when we talked at Poison Pen, I know just because of how prolific you are, you have to be.
My turn?
I think so.
Okay. So you mentioned Moira as far as being Rick's foil and, sometimes partner. And she plays a big role in this book. Last Redemption, as you said, her son is missing, and she's asked Rick to help her find him. So what is Moira's evolution here? What is her arc? Where are you taking her?
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because I don't know any of that stuff, but she has, as I mentioned earlier, she has progressed from your call a throwaway character, someone who had a specific purpose, and then that was going to be it. And it was I didn't really realize that I'd broken my rule of no sidekicks. That was book 2 when I introduced her, Night Tremors, and then I needed her for one scene in Dark Fishers, book 3. Because Rick's, because of his problems with the police, he's thought to be a guy who got away with murder. His father, who worked for the La Jolla Police Department, was thought to be a bad cop also. So Rick doesn't have any police connections where if he needs help getting a license plate, running a license plate, something like that, any of that stuff, he can't get it. But Moira can. So he talked to her a couple times on the phone in Dark Fishers. And then I realized at that point, well, she's not just a cameo character that was fun in the second book. She's got a role in Rick's life. He actually needs her if he's going to be successful in this private investigative thing. So, and then in the 4th book, 2, 3, 4, Blood Truth, once again, I needed her for an early scene. I wasn't going to have her much more in the book. And then she asked Rick something, and I thought, well, geez, she's not only is she important to this book, she's the conscience of this book. She's the conscience of the series, and she's the grounding point for Rick in the series. He's gotten her in a lot of trouble. He's made her an accessory after the fact when in something very bad, but he thought he was doing, or in his mind, he clearly was doing it to save her or keep her from, not necessarily save her in the moment, but keep her from, keep her alive. And so she's, she's one of my favorite characters to write. Now she is his big sister. They almost had a romantic interlude after some tear gas. Going to happen after tear gas. Anything can happen. Right. But that for the both sake, they realized before anything happened how ridiculous that would be. But she's a huge part of the series. Where once again, like we mentioned, never thought there'd be a character like her. And I think as difficult as it is for me as a blank pager or a pantser, I always call them blank pagers as an homage to Chandler, but it leaves you open to these things. If I was an outliner, but outliners do all the work ahead of time, so they're getting this stuff out. I get it out as I write a first draft. But if I would have been so strict on some things, I wouldn't be as open to discovering someone like Moira. And she's always been, I'm going to answer your question finally. She's always been, of the two, she's been the one who's got her shit together much more better than Rick. She's been the brake to Rick's gas. And in this instance, she's a little bit irrational in some instances and angry with Rick, angry at the world. Her son's missing. She needs help. She needs Rick's help. But she's not her normal self. And he's got to be the one who is a little more reserved. He's got to try. he's Rick.
Right.
To be a little more reserved and to steer her instead of having her steer him. So that was fun. I didn't really intend it to be that strong when I wrote it. I didn't really. I mean, the story is Rick's having a kid. He's with his girlfriend. They're going to form a family. He hasn't really felt a member of a family since he was about 10 years old. When the things came out about his father in the police department, his father became a drunk, died of alcoholism. His mother basically withdrew from Rick because of his closeness to his father. He hasn't really felt the family. He got married. That didn't work out very well, and it was short. And he's really, I want a family. Here's how much a family means when, Moira is lost. She's a widow. Her only son is missing, and how disruptive that can be in your life. So I don't really think I answered your question. I think I talked for about 10 minutes. So are we done? Is that it? Okay. So I want to ask you, talk a little bit about process, because if those I've made mention, but those of you who don't know, Megyn is very prolific, and you are a pantser as well.
Yeah.
And first of all, what are your writing days like? I mean, I'm sure that's when you're under contract, it's probably 7 days a week, but how do those days go? And then a little bit about process.
My writing days are, and it's not 7 days a week. I write 4 to 5 days a week. I try not to write when Joe's home.
That's right. Joe drives a truck, right? Long haul truck driver.
Yeah. So when he's home, he's not a long haul. He does some interstate work, but mostly he's gone for about 18 to 20 hours at a stretch.
Okay.
So he's home a couple days a week. When he's home, I try not to write because I'm a wife. Blech.
Old Sasquatch needs a wife.
He does. Every Sasquatch needs a wife, apparently. So try to spend time with him. And it's hard for me to write when people are around, because I need complete isolation. I'm not one of those writers who can write in coffee shops. I'm not one of those writers that's not me. I need complete isolation. I need nobody but, my coyote here.
The chickens and the dogs.
Yep. Chickens and the dogs. And that's it. So, I wake up about 6, do a few things. I'm usually at the computer by 8. And I write until dinner time.
Okay. So that's,
my goal is 3,000 a day.
3,000. Okay.
Yeah. My goal is 3,000 a day. Sometimes I hit it. Sometimes I go over. So it just depends. My kids are older, so I'm able to focus more on writing now than I was when they were little.
So to write as many books as you do and to write 3,000 words a day, I got a couple questions in here. First of all, do you have because you're under contract a lot, I'm guessing, in terms of time, you have to get books done. Do you have beta readers? I know you're not, I'm about 100% sure you're not in writers group.
No.
Beta readers at this time, or is that all behind you?
I tried beta readers in the beginning when I first started writing romance. I tried beta readers. Quite honestly, I didn't feel like I was getting, I wasn't getting much feedback out of it. I wasn't getting what I felt I needed out of it. So no beta readers. I don't do anything like that. I don't do first drafts. What I finish writing is what I turn in. So what you read in The Darkwater Girls was pretty much my final draft.
Your first draft is your final draft.
Yeah. My first draft is my final draft.
So, which is kind of arrogant.
Well, it is what it is.
Yeah. Because it's very good. Very good. So there must be quite an editing process each day.
There is. So I sit down. I will. I use the playback function on my Word program to listen back to what I've written.
Okay.
I listen to it.
Now, who's reading that?
It's the robot voice.
Well, how's the robot? I mean, is there any inflection at all?
There is, but it's oddly placed inflection that makes me laugh.
Okay. So you're just looking. That's basically what you have. That's how I sound when I read. So I can understand it. But so you're just looking for kind of errors, and because I would think that would be difficult in some ways for flow if it's kind of robotic. Because
I'm listening for errors.
Okay.
Or sometimes comedic relief when it's reading back sex scenes. That's hilarious.
Yeah. That
is hilarious. But
you write sex scenes?
In my romance, yes.
Oh wow.
In the romance.
Oh wow.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it sounds like.
My robot voice. Yeah.
So so I'll listen to I'll listen back for the errors, and as I'm listening back, I also read it, and I do my editing that way. So I usually take the first hour of my day is listening back to what I've rereading and re-listening to everything that I wrote the day before, edits and rewrites, and then I cycle back to new material, and I just loop my way through. And I know a lot of people say that that's not the way you should do it. You should hurry up. You should write your first draft. It's what's always worked for me. And I can't leave a scene. I can't move on until I fix what's in front of me. And that's just how I've always been.
There's no, as you know, clearly there's no right way. And
right.
I have made the mistake over the past, for some reason. I mean, I'm not prolific like you, but I've written 8 books, and I probably wrote the first one 5, 6 times. So, but for some reason over the last 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8, I thought I had to reinvent the wheel. I'd use this very chaotic, messy process where, somewhat similar to what you do is, of course, I edit what I wrote the day before.
Right.
And that not only gets me the flow, but it cleans some things up. But I also just go down, I go down rat holes. I don't care. I'm writing that first draft. That first draft is my outline. So I will drop anchors where I will find there's a scene, something in my subconscious is saying something. I don't know what that means. I just throw it in the scene.
Right.
And then it may not come out the next day. It may come out weeks later, or it may stay in and give me a better sense of what I'm doing. But I've been fairly successful. I got a series that, some people read, so it's been going okay. But I think I
think it's more than okay, Matt.
Well, I think it's going okay. But the 6th book, I thought, well, you got to be more organized. You got to have a better idea what you're doing and blah, 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 thematic, all this crap. And all I did was waste a month. I haven't started the next book yet, which is 10. Not bad. Not in a year, but at 9 is I'm finishing editing on 9. I'm just writing it. Put Rick in a scene if he's still alive. Put him in a scene and just do it. I mean, I got the target out there.
Right.
And I always start with Rick's major subplot. What's bothering him?
Right.
In his life, physically, emotionally. So I have that, and that always drives for me the narrative. And then I have an idea. Here's the kind of inciting incident, and something will come from this. And I just put him in there, and then you'll figure it out. I don't know why I've been doing that recently, but I'm not doing it anymore. It's over. But I'm going back to you, and the what's different for me is that your mind must be much more organized than mine. You're seeing further out than I am, because I talked about dropping anchors, and I don't always know where they go, and it may take more than a day for me to figure it out. But I may pull that out at the end when I'm reading the first draft 3 months later. When I've written 107,000 words, and it's going to end up being 90.
Right.
I mean, very messy. But how do you avoid that? Or you're just more structured, I guess. Yeah, I mean, your brain just must have a better feel of the story.
I like I said earlier, I do the same thing where I'll put things in stories. I'll drop anchors. Then I don't know I don't know why it's going to work. I don't know how it's going to fit, but I know that it is.
Okay.
And, you know, sometimes, and when I connect a dot, when I put a puzzle piece together, you know, I can feel the click. I know that I'm on the right path. I know that what I'm doing, and I've gotten to the point where I can just trust the process. You know, it's crazy. It doesn't make sense, but it does make sense somewhere in my brain. And I've just gotten to where I can trust the process and, you know, embrace the chaos.
But if you have to pull an anchor out, I'm guessing you don't that often, but it seems to me you're cleaning up every day and then you're done. So if you haven't pulled it out after day 2, it stays and it has to matter, right?
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, I call them Easter eggs. You know, I'll plant an Easter egg, you know, and it won't come to fruition until 2 or 3 books.
Oh shit.
I won't pull it out. I'll leave it there. And I've done that a lot.
That's some really forward thinking.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't know what my brain knows.
Okay.
Apparently it knows a lot more than I know. So
I have mentioned this before. A mentor of mine, Carolyn Wheat, a great teacher and a very successful, while she was doing it, mystery writer, told me that my subconscious was a much better writer than I was. And I completely agree with it. And I think that's the one benefit. I don't know. I've never really been a outliner, but I think that's one of the benefits that we blank pagers have, or pantsers, is that we're just open to these things. Let it fall.
Right. And I agree with you, you know, and like you, every once in a while, I get this idea that I'm going to plot this book. I'm going to do this the right way.
Right.
I'm going to plot this book and it's going to be neat and orderly and I'm going to follow, you know, and I write the outline and it looks great and it sounds great. And I sit down and I get maybe 1 or 2 scenes in following the outline. And then I hit the brakes and I can't do it. And even though it's right there in front of me, I can't move forward. Right. And it's not until I check the outline that I'm able to just go. And I've just come to the realization that I'm just not built. You know, the outline really just, it stymies my creativity. I can't work with an outline.
Break these chains.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All right.
So what does your process look like, Matt?
A lot like yours, but not as efficient.
No.
Yeah, I start writing about the same time you do. Maybe I start my revision some days a little earlier, maybe like 7:30 or 7 or something, but I don't write as long as you do. And I take breaks throughout the day, depending on, you know, where the deadline is. But in terms of process, very much like yours, but clearly less efficient because I do have to revise. I don't care that I'm writing shit. Saw John Squad at a conference one time, and he says, I allow myself to write shit on the first draft. And I completely agree. I agree with that. And it's kind of funny sometimes when you bring somebody to the writers group and, you know, you've allowed yourself to write shit and then they have to give you a feedback on it. But I'm open to all these things. You know, whatever I'm going to put it in. If it's an inkling of anything, I'm sticking it in. It may come out the next day. It may not come out until I revise.
Right.
And then I probably revise 4 to 5 times before I hand the book in. And then much to my publisher's chagrin, I will revise again when they send me back only errors. And I'll read this. I'll go, no, this is wrong. I have to change this. So a little too anal perhaps, but it's the way it works for me. But I wish I was more. I don't wish that I was an outliner, but I wish I was more efficient like you. I think that I'd write faster, and maybe that process will speed up for me. One thing I do know, speaking about drafts, the reason I can do this is the first drafts are much better than they used to be. They are not turn-inable, but they are much better than they used to be, and that probably comes with writing more and with you for being so prolific. Maybe you're just to the point where the rest of us will finally get. I don't know. Hope so.
I think Honestly, I think it's my OCD. I think I'm diagnosed OCD. I'm just not. I can't. I wish that I could write a first draft. I wish that I was able to do that, because I would probably write even faster than I do now. You know,
But if you're writing 3,000 words a day, that's so many words that, and if you're paring it down, you're editing, so you're kind of just doing it faster. You're kind of probably just doing the same method but faster.
Yeah.
I think that must be how you turn in these first. So you say you turn in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Do you read it before you turn it in, all the way through?
No.
You should have said that. You should not have said that out loud.
Okay. I am telling the truth here.
Well, that's good. I mean, you let it go. You don't. Of course, you've got another project to go. So, when you are writing many books in a year, or even say 3, many, is it like I'm knocking this one out, on to the next one, or are there times when you're writing 2 at once?
Right now I'm writing 3 books.
3 at once?
Yeah.
And they are multiple genres?
I'm writing a Georgia Fell. I'm writing a unrelated romantic suspense, and I'm writing a straight contemporary suspense.
Okay.
Not just contemporary romance.
Wow. So So this is what I want to ask you. So does your process change at all for the different genres?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Do you? Oh, he's back. I was going to ask you about sex scenes and straight mystery, but we'll do that another time.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Saved by the bell.
No, we're good.
Okay, so we have a couple more questions. You've touched on some of this stuff, but we'll recap. So Leah wants to know, for both of you, other than your protagonist, who's your favorite character to write? How about you, Matt?
Her name's Leah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Leah is one of my favorite characters to write, actually. But it would be Moira. I really like Peter Stone, bad guy, and some of the earlier books. And there's always a chance he may show up again. He was really fun to write. He was the part of me that I had to get out on the page. But Moira is probably the most fun. I really know her well now after all these years. Probably know her better than any woman I've ever met.
How about you, Megyn?
Hard to count them.
Right. There's been so many. Sticking to the Georgia Fell books, just because that's what we're talking about. I'd say, aside from Georgia, my favorite character to write was Savannah. She's my male lead's daughter. She's 9, and kids have always been fun for me to write. I like writing kids. They tell the truth. They see things that we don't see as adults. They're not afraid to say things that we generally, would think twice to say as adults. So they're my little truth tellers. I always enjoy writing kids.
So are you just copying that you've actually thought twice before you've said something? I find that hard to believe.
Not usually, but you
maybe thought once.
Maybe once, maybe twice. Yeah.
Next up, what's the most difficult and the easiest part of the writing process? How about you, Matt?
Most difficult is post-writing, writing synopsises and stuff like that. I hate that. Right, doing the marketing packet that now they want basically when the book is turned in. I hate that the most. All the different 50 words, 75 words, 150 words, whatever it is, of synopsis of the story, your log lines, your elevator pitch, all that stuff. Hate that more than anything. But in terms of the book writing, sometimes plotting can be hard because I am a pantser and I'm more into the character, what's going on. So trying to connect the dots may be more difficult. The fun thing is writing Rick and Moira when they're just talking.
Me?
How about you, Megyn? Yep.
Okay. Hardest thing, like Matt said, writing synopsis, not fun. I can write a 100,000 word novel, no problem, but trying to condense it all down into a 3-paragraph synopsis, I'd rather slam my hand in a car door, to be honest. It's just, it's so difficult and so tedious, and my brain doesn't work that way. So it's hard. The funnest thing about writing, I like writing dialogue. That's fun for me. The interactions between my characters. It gives me the opportunity to show who they are as people through the things that they say and the way they react to the things that are being said to them. That I think is more telling than anything that I could tell in a narrative. So that's probably my favorite thing to do, other than book covers. I love making book covers. So that's my reward after I hit my 3,000 for the day.
Good at bookmarks too.
Thanks.
And if you could give a new writer any one piece of advice, what would it be? Let's start with Megyn this time.
Don't be afraid. That's writing the Sabrina series. There were some things that I was writing, especially in Carved, the first book in that series that I wrote, that I was honestly, I was a little bit afraid for people to read. And I was afraid of, what people were going to think of me as a person for writing those things. And if it comes from you, and if it's inside you, and it wants to be on, if it comes easily, because those things came very easily for me. And I'm sure Matt knows what I'm talking about. Those things came very easily for me. They were not something that I had to struggle with. They just flowed out of me. And those are the things, those are usually the scariest things. And those are the things that need to be there. So don't be afraid of what you're writing.
I think that's great advice. I think that's great advice in life. It's something I wish I would have learned much earlier. Don't be afraid. Yep. Challenge yourself. But that is great advice. And afraid and in the other sense of just of putting it out there to be read, to be critiqued. But read and write. Read your genre and write. Work the muscle. Be like Megyn. Work. Well, actually, that's impossible. But write when it's easy. Write when it's hard. Because sometimes when you're writing when it's hard, you get the best days. But you got to write, and that's the advice I wish I would have given myself 30 years ago.
Perfect. So I think that is going to about do it for this evening. So to recap, for anyone who may have joined us late, we've been chatting with Matt Coyle, whose most recent book, Last Redemption, is out now. And we've been chatting with Maegan Beaumont, whose newest release is The Dark Water Girls. You can order either of them. We dropped links in the comments to the store's event page. If you missed any part of our chat, once we are done, Facebook and YouTube will archive them, so you'll be able to rewatch. If you want to see Matt talk about last year's book, we also got to do a virtual event with him, so it's up on the store's YouTube channel as well as all of the virtual events that we have done in the last 2 years. As I mentioned, we've got one more tomorrow night, so we hope that you guys will come back and check us out. Megyn, it was so great to meet you, and Matt,
good to meet you too.
To see you again.
Thanks, John, and thanks, Megyn. That was a lot of fun.
Y'all
Bye,
have
guys.
a good night. Y'all take care. Thanks.
You all, everybody.